Hey, welcome everybody. François Latat for my role-playing channel, and today a ramble and something. We've started a small conversation, me and Ivan Mike, about a role-playing game for kids. He was asking me questions, and he was precise about kids that had dyslexia and learning challenges, and just to see what my thought was. Of course, I told him about Hero Kids. I might seem sold to it, and I am in a sense, but I've tried other games, I've read other games, and to tell the truth, Hero Kids is still nailing it for me. Of course, the let's say the public range, the age range favored for a basic Hero Kids game might be between 6 and 8 years old, uh, because the game is very easy to understand and all of that. But there's a potential to have the game do a little more, because there are some supplements that came for that game and will add up many layers of complexity, but just enough to be able to follow. And I've tried them throughout the years because I had at some point a group of kids that I was seeing once in a while, and I decided to try the kind of level up. I think it's the progression system, which is one of the official from Hero Forge Games, the publisher of Hero Kids, and I'd say that it's pretty interesting. You can really customize your character in all of the such. But just to bring back to the basic Hero Kids, okay, dyslexia and all of the thing, there's, most of what you have to know is in pictograms, okay? You have pictograms of what your character can do, you have the number of dice and all of that. So for kids, it's easy, but even for older kids, it's very convenient. You really know how strong you are into doing your stuff. And even before getting the progression system, I've been using this game, well, it's been more than 12 years. I'd say it's about since 12 years I've been trying this game, and I'm always amazed with, well, how surprising it is. Okay, it's surprising, but because when you set up a difficulty number, you roll a bunch of dice, you take the highest dice of your pool, and the difficulty might be 4, 5, or 6. You can even make it a 3 if you want. But I'm always surprised that even, if you have a very strong character in one field, if someone is very as high is highly competent. Okay, so he rolls the dice and he might fail getting a 4. So there's always, a way to challenge the players the way the game it is, and I think it's one of the reasons I'm still sticking to it, because it it helps the children learns about uh, getting failures as much as getting success, with with the randomness, and yeah, and trying to evaluate if they can do it or not. And okay, this is a very flexible game. The way I run it, I do make some rulings. You want to help your friend, okay, you get that bonus, and let's say there's a big group effort to do. So often, the last scene, okay, there's something very important to accomplish. So I make a round table. I ask the kids about how do you try to resolve the matter. And suddenly I say, okay, you roll this and you roll this and you roll this. I do call the number of dice that they roll, inspired by what they have in their sheets, and if there are any bonuses that can apply for some reasons. And I say, okay, all at once, roll your dice, and I need 1 6. Okay, if I have 1 6 throughout all of the dice, you have win. And that's very funny, because sometimes that there might be 20 dices roll at once, 20 d6, and no 6 coming up, which is fine. And okay, that's because that's how you learn that you might fail and there can be consequences. Okay, So that is the basic game. What the progression systems do bring is that you kind of level up. So that's how you get better in what you already have. That's what where you can unlock some of the basic abilities that you might not have. Let's say you are a mage. Okay, you have your magic stats with two dice, and you have one dice to defend yourself. But you want to be good at fighting with the sword, so you can unlock, the unarmed combat, and which makes you stronger because it is used for other type of tests and challenges that you might have. So yeah, and you can have new bonus abilities and all of that. Okay, and you have new equipments. And yeah, like I said, I've tried the thing with uh, a group of kids throughout maybe 2 or 3 years that we were seeing each other 3 or 4 times a year, probably more than that because they have leveled up a lot. It was probably more than that, but in the end, some of the last games, some of the characters that were there since the start and were still there leveling up, even though they would roll a lot of dice, they once in a while they would fail, and they will still have the challenges facing them. They will not, of course, their life is easier for them, but they might have other challenges. So I was still able to challenge advanced characters, and I was able to bring new characters around, which are the basic character, and they were able to feel useful in any scenes. Okay, they had enough potential to do something. So yeah, this is quite a I am amazed how this game works out. Of course, you can change stuff. Okay, if you want to get it more grittier, okay, you can make the character dies, which is not something that is in Hero Kids. That the characters are not dying. They're maybe out of the combat. They have to be healed in order to get back in the game. But you can make that gritty and make the character dies and having some conditions when they're KOD and see if they're dying. Okay, maybe there's some tweaking to do. I don't know if someone has made some house rules about that. I pretty much own much of the Hero Kids PDF. I haven't saw something like that, but I remember reading an article a couple of years back of someone, an adult into his adult game, using Hero Kids as his main game system, and he was running a full campaign with that, which I do believe might be possible with the progression system. Also, I know that for Hero Kids, there were some supplements, third-party supplements that were adding maybe a little more mature stuff. Well, not necessarily mature, but something more aimed for older kids a little bit. Okay, more magic and more adult characters. Okay, adult pre-generated characters that might inspire you to make some of those, some like that. So there are possibilities. Okay, yeah, I'm selling Hero Kids big like that as coming for dyslexia and learning problems. This game is pretty easy to check out with your eyes because of all of the pictograms and all of that. Otherwise than that, I have suggested Index Card RPG. I don't know if you know this one. This is a D&D OSR type of game. I have tried it once and fell, and I think it could be a good idea for, uh, again, kids that might have dyslexia and learning challenges, because everything is expressed into a card that you add up to your character, which will have an image of what it is, and you can add many of the numbers together to trying to have your stats and all of that. And well, I think there's many different modes that you can run Index Card RPG, but the one time I've tried it, it was into a convention, and you go into a scene, and randomly the game master will present what is happening. It was kind of random encountery, and there's a random difficulty number that is kind of drawn from a deck to say, okay, everything you try into this scene will, this is the target number. And so there's something very visual, very, you touch the stuff, you have your character sheets made out of all of those cards that you have gained, all the loot that you were able to gain throughout the game. So this might be a very good game in that case. I would consider it. Another one that I haven't mentioned to Ivan Mike, and pretty much because maybe it's a very precise theme, but this is My Little Pony. Okay, if if is would-be players are fans of My Little Pony, well, the role-playing game is quite good, and it's really visual. So yeah, and you have all of those dice, and the character sheet is very clean. And yeah, I've tried it once. Wasn't a fan afterwards because I wasn't seeing myself replaying it. I've tried it with some little girls who wanted to play My Little Pony, but they were all excited. But at the same time, I can consider that this is a well-made game. Now he asked me the question if a little older kids, but with no learning issues or all of that. And it's my from my own personal experience, but Castles and Crusades might be a good choice here if you want to have that old school feel to a game. But I think Castles and Crusades is quite flexible. From what I remember, I do like this game a lot. Otherwise, Advanced Fighting Fantasy. I'm pretty sold to this one, but at the same time, little older kids might, because I don't know, we're many years later, but they might have read some fighting fantasy game books, so they already know the basics of the game. So I don't know. I know that fighting fantasy is, well, can be a trend once in a while, so maybe some kids might read them. That's something I saw around. I'm working in the library, so once in a while I see kids borrowing the fighting fantasy, the French version, of course, but of those books. So I once in a while I'm hearing about kids doing that. So this might be a solution. And finally, and it's just because I've heard of the game and seems quite a good game, I would still have to check out the Dragonbane, I think, which is a European game, which seems to have a nice game system that might be easy to apply. I'm just game dropping here because I do use for teenagers games that, well, especially there are two games especially that that I'm using, but they are only in French. So yeah, that's unfortunate for the English folks because no, I'm a big fan of Chroniques Oubliées, and Chroniques Oubliées, well, I don't think it will ever be in English because it would probably fail on the market since it's too much alike. It looks too much like Dungeons and Dragons, but it has a very its very own personal twist. But it might be hard to get into the market when the people won't even try to see what it is because there are so many other options already. Um, there's a game that was very appreciated from the kids and other French role-playing games that is called Tranchons et Traquons. This is a player-facing game, so they're the only one rolling the dice. 2d6 plus a modifier, and the target number is always 8. So in order to get some challenges, you have to put modifiers about the challenges they are about to roll. So if something is difficult, you put a -2 to it. Okay, so just to see the math here. So this is pretty neat. Okay, it works well. And I think the special twist of that game is that you have a deck of event cards that you give to the players at the start of the game, but as a game master, you don't know what they have, and they can play that card at any time. So sometimes the cards is it's an automatic success. Sometimes the card is, well, you do more damage, and sometimes a card is, well, the big bad evil guy just stops fighting you and just tells you about his plan. Okay. Um, well, that's the thing. The kids really appreciates this one, but as a game master, I at some point I was worn out of this game because um, it was hard for me to give a challenge at some point. I like a game where the players feels challenged, and in Tranchant et Tracon, even if I could make the nastiest negative modifier, there was always a way to bypass that and all of that. So at some point, I was a little worn out, and at the same time, I've used this game for a couple of years, and it has a little bit its limits when it comes to character progression. At some point, you're blocked, and you have all of your powers, and your stats are all the way up. So you become at that point a very vanilla, powerful hero. Okay, so yeah, but this is personal taste. Maybe one last game drop here that I might suggest because I think there's an English version of it. It's called Sodalitas. Sodilitas. It's on itch.io, that website, so you can check out Sodalitas role playing game. This is the one I use when I receive a class, and I have to, and I well with that I'm able to make a role playing game for a group of 30 kids. The way I manage that is that I take the pre-gen characters from Sodalitas, though there are rules to create your character, and I make some teams. Okay, so there's 8 characters, so I make 8 teams of character, and the way it works is that you are always on initiative in a sense. So it's there's a players doing, well, there's a group. If I'm taking a group, but there's a character doing something. Its turn will stop when either he rolls the dice for something or do a something significant for the story to go forward, or use a special ability because they are special abilities. So one of those 3 conditions arrives, his turn is over, and we go to another play character, and all of the character has a chance to do something, and then we reset all of the characters. So the procedure here really helps out a lot for kids. So I'm coming back with kids that might have learning disabilities. This is a pretty clean game. It's very, there's not a lot to read. Your character is based off keywords, so you can be a lady cat thief, agile thief. Okay, so but your definition is used when you roll the dice, because you're agile, you can have a +1 over that. And the game system is players facing again, and it's pretty much the PBTA kind of table. Okay, you are got three between 2 and 6. This is a failure, and 7 and 10. This is a moderate. It's yes, and okay. So pretty much based upon that. It's very narrative, but for a big group it works. But for a small group, I think this could be visually interesting. Um, and the way it works, the character doesn't really, there's no character progression per se if you want to play many sessions. The way it works is that you receive loot that might help you a little more during your adventures, and your group is improving. You have a guild, and the guild will have stuff to give you, and as you progress, the guild has more services to give you. So that's the way it works. So I wanted to have a little something to say about Sodalitas because I think it's pretty neat. I don't know if it's answers to Ivan Mike, but even though I just wanted to get here on the channel and just talk about those games, so if you want to check them out, so I've talked about Hero Kids from Hero Forge Games. I've talked about Castles and Crusades, Troll Lord Games. I think Dragonbane. I don't remember the publisher. Index Card RPG. I don't remember the publisher. Sodalitas, which is on itch.io, Advanced Fighting Fantasy from Orion Games. And if you want to practice your French, well, there's Chroniques Oubliées Fantasy from Black Book Edition and Tranchons et Tracons, des livres de l'ours. Donc, that's pretty much all from my video. Thanks for watching if you have dared to watch, and see you next time. Well, my name is François Letap, and up to next time, I hope you have as much fun in your life as in your games. Bye.